All right, we're unmuted. We're good to go.
Okay, we are reconvening the regular meeting of the Rome Board of Education. The date is January 13th, 2022, and the time is 6:03 p.m. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our first item is to approve the minutes of the regular meeting from December 22nd, 2021. I move to approve the minutes. Mr. Malasky, any discussion? Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Blake, are there any additions or deletions?
There are not tonight.
No. Very good. We're on a roll right now.
I'm at the speed talk.
Yeah, report of superintendent of schools.
Well, in honor of my good friend, Mr. Brewer, I brought a presentation for you tonight to slow this thing down a little bit. Just kidding. Happy New Year, everybody. Glad we could start with some humor tonight. Glad to see everybody. Got a couple of things to talk about. First, a quick COVID update. Obviously, the district is no different than really anywhere else. Continue to see, obviously, cases increase. I shouldn't say increase, they steadied out, but there's more now than there were in November. So we continue to monitor that. The good news is, I wouldn't say we're any better off or worse off than most places with staffing. We aren't dangerously low in terms of worrying about school closure because of staffing right now, but I would say that it could take one good weekend to put us over that hump and have to worry about that. But for right now, things are going good with staffing. As you all know, the county and the state have changed their guidelines for contact tracing, quarantining, isolation. That is going okay so far, but our principals are saying that they're spending a little bit more time this week having to explain to parents what's happening and what the new rules are, because that kind of has fallen on their shoulders. For clarification, in case people didn't see it last weekend or they just are a little confused, Rome City School District is doing a 5-day quarantine for asymptomatic students. We are still doing a 10-day isolation for positive students. All right, so it's a little bit different. The general population can be removed from isolation after 5 days of being positive if they are asymptomatic on the 6th day. We're maintaining 10 days because in speaking to the building leaders, they didn't feel they had the space in the buildings to have kids to be able to eat with their masks off. They still would be required to be 6 feet away from anybody else anytime their mask was off. They didn't feel that they could do the spacing, number one. And more importantly than that, they had a concern that isolating a kid to eat a meal might put a target on them as being something different than everybody else or causing possible bullying situations. So in consideration of that, they felt the 10-day was the wisest decision. And it probably is with knowing that we don't have the space and we don't want to do anything that negatively affects a kid. So we're 5 days for quarantine, 10 for isolation right now. Hopefully we don't see any more changes for a few weeks to months, but you never know when something is going to change. Lately, it seems to be Friday afternoons that things are coming from Albany that they're changing. Kind of on the heels of speaking of Albany, test kits. The governor seems like sending test kits to schools every 2 weeks. The first shipment came in over the New Year holiday. That was 1 test kit for every student on your beds form in the fall. We got another shipment this week, but it was not for one for every student. It was about half the allotment of our student population. So we've done 1 distribution already to any family that signed up or said they wanted a test kit. If you're a family that signed up for a test kit, hasn't picked it up, feel free to come to the district office and pick up that test kit. If you did not sign up or get a test kit yet, you're still eligible to get one for your child. Please come to the district office. We still have those here. We've also done a test kit giveaway for every staff member. So every staff member has had the opportunity to receive a test kit. And now we're at the point where each school has sets of test kits for students that either are quarantined. So if we're calling and saying, your child is quarantined, because of that, you have access to test kits from the school on the school's behalf if you would like them. We're giving them to families that want them for peace of mind, just to test their children. And we'll also be using them for test to stay which hopefully we'll be able to officially begin on Monday in the district. I'm just waiting to hear back from the county on whether or not they will approve our test to stay program. It does sound like the testing from the state's going to continue to come to the district. And like I said, it seems like every 2 weeks we're going to get a shipment of some kind of these at-home tests. Right now, there's no further guidance on what they expect them to be used for. So I think most districts can use them for test to stay, kind of help families out the best that they can. The only last thing I'll say about test kits is the ones we have currently, our understanding is they expire at the end of January. So I'm going to ask folks to stay tuned in 2 weeks. If we get into the beginning part of the last week of January and we have an abundance of test kits left over, we're probably just going to do a barn sale and just fire sale them out. Whoever wants one, come get it, because we want to make sure that they get in the hands of people that need them. They don't go to waste. So we'll determine that when we get to the end of the month to see how many we have sitting around. And if we have an abundance that are going to go bad, we're certainly going to do our best to get them in the hands of students and families in the community for use. We are trying to set up a vaccination clinic next week with the Mohawk Valley Health Systems. I've been communicating via email with their director. Right now, I'm waiting to hear back which day of the week they're able to do it, but we're looking to do a vaccination clinic from 4 to 7 p.m. at Stroud Middle School. Day of the week is unknown. It's not 100% confirmed yet, just simply because I'm waiting on the Mohawk Valley Health Systems to let me know if they can actually do that.
Would that be all age groups?
It would be ages 5 to whatever, yeah. Moving away from COVID, the board has begun budget development with the district. We had a retreat last night to kind of start that off. So the next month or so, the district and the Board of Education will be working through some budget situations. We're a few weeks away from the governor's runs, which are usually a key marker. But stay tuned for that information. I think the board, they've had a busy week for a lot of reasons, but the budget season, January especially, is tough for them because it's a lot of meetings and it's a lot of information that is not normal information to think and worry about. So we thank you for your time and assistance in working on that. But we're well on our way with budget development, and I can say up front, I don't anticipate this being the type of year where folks have to lose sleep over what's going to happen with the budget. Things in general look very healthy. Always tough decisions to make, but we're in good shape. No sleep will be lost. Redistricting is still moving along. The teachers were provided a survey last Friday from the consultants, asking some questions about their concerns, their ideas, thoughts about redistricting and testing out some of the models they're looking at. They are continuing to work with the architects, and I believe their plan is by the end of the month to not only have some more developed redistricting ideas, but I believe the architects will be bringing some renderings for building expansion additions that would relate to what the consultants are going to recommend. So it'll be, the board should have a lot more information in totality than we've had. One thing we don't have a lot of information yet regarding all of that is the Staley situation. I know Rob is working on setting up a phone call with FEMA, maybe tomorrow, if not tomorrow, next week. We've been bumped up to the next level of conversation, which is where we have to start getting into the nuts and bolts of what exactly do we want? What are we asking for? So those continue to move along. We're still looking to schedule one more community meeting for redistricting prior to the January 27th board meeting, where Ross and his team will present to the board and the community once again. More stuff coming out this weekend. We're going to launch a thought exchange in relation to peer interactions and student-to-student interactions within the school. So the thought exchange is simply going to ask community members, staff members, students to provide some thoughts and ideas regarding, first of all, what are their perceptions of peer interactions in the schools, and or what are some activities that we can do for kids that will help increase peer-to-peer, positive peer-to-peer interactions and experiences for students. So please be on the lookout for that. We'll launch that this weekend, and that will go through January 26th, which is a Wednesday. Two last things. Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We do have our representatives from NAACP here tonight. I was going to mention this prior to, but I'm glad they came to give me some details that I didn't remember off the top of my head. They are hosting a virtual event Monday morning at 9 o'clock from the Zion Episcopal Church. So the link is, I know their Facebook has the link. I think I linked it on my blog this week. I'll double check. If I don't, I will definitely reblog that out this weekend with a link to the Zoom to participate in that. And 10:30 is a vaccination clinic. And that's located where, Jackie? I'm sorry, I didn't write it down.
At the church.
At the church,
At the
okay.
church, and they will have pediatric doses there as well.
Wonderful. So anybody that's interested on Monday, 10:30 Zion Episcopal, there will be a vaccination clinic. Last thing, positive news for our students this past week, and Maya McLeod scored her 1,000th point on the RFA girls basketball team. You may have heard about it or seen it around, but congratulations. That is no small feat, especially if you think about the amount of time that was lost during the COVID era. So that probably would have happened last year if there wasn't a whole season kind of lost due to COVID. So pretty incredible. Congratulations to her and her family and the team, coach. And with that, I turn it back to you, sir.
Okay, just one thing, Mr. Blake. I saw that the governor has stopped contact tracing. So that should be a relief to our principals.
No.
No.
It was a county
Sorry, Craig.
It's, I guess, well, I don't want to waste a lot of time on that tonight because I will tell you there are some advocacy groups across the state are really pushing back on the governor's office because of this. Legally, school districts have no ability to tell somebody to quarantine. We don't have the lawful authority to do that. We can suggest that they quarantine, but the way it's working now is that school districts enrollment is not unique to this. This is across the state. We've been asked by health departments to tell families that they have to quarantine. The issue is most families probably will quarantine, but a family that does not want to comply and just sends their kid because they're asymptomatic, there is a loophole there. And I don't want to get into that because it could create a domino effect that we can't handle, but
Short answer is
it has
maybe.
not only because we aren't quite there yet, but there's a lot of effort being placed in Albany right now to make people aware that, look, our principals may have been doing this and our nurses have been doing this for 2 years for you. We want to get back to teaching kids. Our principals want to get back to working with their staff, working with their kids, working with their families. And the changes that have been made, ironically, have increased the work on contact tracing a little bit because you don't have the county health department to fall back on when you're sending the list. We're kind of as I mentioned earlier, our principals, Craig, like I am sure, is spending a lot of time trying to educate people on what the rules are now. And those phone calls take time. And if you got a hot parent, you got to calm them down first, and then you got to get through it. So more to come on that.
Okay.
But it looks like things are going away. Whether you think that's good or bad, that's your own personal opinion, but it does look like we're going to start to see less of the stringent rules that have been placed on schools.
I'm just concerned about the time it takes the principals to do all that.
Yeah, we're still doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Did you mention if there's any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There are.
There were none.
Oh, there were none. Okay, sorry, I didn't catch it.
And our student board member is not here. She has COVID.
Oh, boy.
So been in contact. I think she's doing okay. So now we're public comment. Okay, we'll do a speaker. Get out my speak. At this point, the meeting is open for public comment. If you wish to speak and have not already done so, please complete the comment card that Mrs. Bremen has. This is an opportunity to appear before the school board and express your views concerning agenda items and district affairs. We ask that you limit your remarks to 5 minutes. All public speakers are asked to refrain from making personal attacks for district employees and elected officials. Be advised that your comments do not enjoy the same privilege and immunity as statements made by members of the Rome Board of Education, that defamatory or obscene statements are prohibited. Please note that unless specifically indicated on the agenda, this time is not a question and answer period. There's no exchange of conversation with the members of the board or executive staff. However, if your comments require a response, every effort will be made to respond to your inquiry within a reasonable time frame. Thank you for your cooperation. And first speaker is Roberto Egilicola.
Right here?
That's fine right there.
Dan,
Yep.
whatever you're comfortable with.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roberto Angelicola. I'm a lifelong Roman, and I attended Rome schools. In fact, this was my grade school. It was Stillfell Road School. Before I address my concerns, I want to thank you, the board, for your service. I recognize the amount of work, time, and effort that you put into this, and I also recognize that you're volunteers, which I think is sometimes forgotten. So I just want to let you know that I really appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
I address you tonight regarding the failure to approve the contract with Access Global Group, the diversity, equity, and inclusion consultants hired by the district. I was surprised and disappointed by this news. In speaking with teachers, administrators, and parents, I learned of the great progress being made to enhance the learning experience and even the lives of students who may feel as though they don't have a voice. I'm not sure what conversations took place among the board or what information was shared with you prior to the vote, but as I see it, it comes down to two questions. Number one, is there an equity, diversity, and inclusion problem at the Rome City School District? And number two, was the program making a difference? First, is there an equity, diversity, and inclusion issue? The simple answer to that is yes. At a previous meeting, you heard just a few stories from parents brave enough to share with you the issues their children are having at school. And to be sure, there are many more stories like this that you haven't heard. Yes, these problems exist in the Rome City School District and in the community at large. Any denial of these issues and that they exist is ridiculous. Every student, whether they constitute 1%, 8%, or 18% of the student body, has a right, 100% right to an education free of inequity and free of bias. Second, was the program making a difference? Well, I spoke to teachers, principals, school district officials, the Rome Teacher Center, NAACP, and parents, and the answer was very clear. The program was working, and it was working extremely well. Here are some comments from the groups I communicated with. This is from a teacher, quote, "Conversations gave a good starting point to make changes in the way we teach our students in the district. I would recommend joining the conversations if you have any questions about equity or if you are ready to be involved in making changes within the district." And then from a principal, "Diversity, equity, and inclusion is an integral in our daily lives as educators, but more importantly as human beings. I find this work crucial in supporting our students, families, and each other. Advocating and creating long-lasting, sustainable relationships with our students, all of our students, and their families is critical for academic, emotional, and social success." So as I was speaking to these different groups, I kept hearing words like momentum, growing, improving, impressive, and innovative whenever we discuss this program. Through these conversations, I learned how committed and dedicated our teachers and administrators are to giving our children a high-quality education in a safe, healthy environment. And more than once, I was told that our district was a model for others to emulate. This program was an effective tool being used with enthusiasm by our educators, and we pulled it away from them for reasons I can't comprehend. I think we need to give it back to them. If your reason for voting no or abstaining was that you're unhappy with the RFP process, I urge you not to waste even a moment to develop an RFP, get it out there, and get this program back before any of the progress and momentum is lost. If you voted no or abstained because you didn't feel the district was getting our money's worth, I encourage you to speak to teachers, principals, and families. I encourage you to research the consultants, and I even urge you to speak to the consultants one-on-one. After a 30-minute virtual meeting with Dr. Chanel Benson-Reed from AGG, it was evident that they have the expertise, the education, and the experience to help us with this very complex issue. This is too important not to act, and we need to act now. The focus needs to be on the children. This is not about me, it's not about you. This is about our children. We owe it to them. I respectfully request that you give this important subject the attention it deserves and that you do so immediately. In closing, I would like to once again recognize our teachers and administrators for their commitment to the well-being of our students and for fighting for them. Just in closing very quickly, I was just blown away by how much these people care, teachers, the administrators, the principals, and I was very impressed. I always knew they cared, but I didn't know to what degree. And I just really think that they need this tool, and I would really love to see this, program be reinstated in the home school district. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sarita Ruiz.
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Thank you, Rob. I will actually start off by saying I also had a one-on-one with Miss Jordan, which was a great experience. She's very, very qualified to do this work. So my comments tonight are concerning things that have been said by a few of our current board members. Please don't take this as a personal attack, but I do have questions that I feel need to be answered. Is Dr. Fontana here tonight?
She's
She's listening, she's on the Zoom.
She's zooming? Okay. Is there? Oh, there we go. Excellent. So last week's newspaper, which has just been declared our city newspaper, stated that the board clerk, Dr. Karen Fontana, invited new staff members. We have 2 new hires that are student support specialists to join the equity task force, noting that their doing so would serve to fulfill a request of Jackie Nelson, president of the Rome chapter of the NAACP and a member of the task force, to include staff, quote, more representative of the Rome student body. So clearly my question is, when you say more representative of the student body, what exactly does that mean? Did you ask or invite these new hires personally? If they'd like to join, did you ask them one-on-one? Or did you just make a release, the statement to the public, possibly putting pressure on these individuals to join, instead of making the choice on their own after consulting the task force? Now, this isn't to say that they wouldn't have joined, but it's their choice, and it should be their decision without pressure to join, just to serve the purpose of being pretty much saying good enough for Jackie Nelson. To throw her name into it wasn't right. And pretty much the words that I heard, the message that I was sent was, here you go, this will shut you up for a while. Here, this will fill a space. So that's how I felt, and I believe that others that read that probably felt the same way. Moving on. When running for the school board, Ms. McGraw, in your editorial submission, you stated that parents and families and teachers, as of now, are the ones watching cuts and major changes happen and have no say. Someone should be on the board knowing the community with younger children that can ask the questions to staff and family about their feelings and how this will affect their teaching methods and family life at home. Everyone deserves the right to be heard. If I'm elected, I will take the time out in the community and maximize social media to get opinions and concerns that directly affect positive or negative decisions that directly affect families and teaching staff. Now, as far as the AGG program, we're the teachers asked. And I'm really happy to see that, to hear that Rob actually did make contact with these teachers and got their opinions with the principals on how this was going and got a positive response. But were they surveyed about their feelings on it before this was cut? Second, the social media presence of the board is weak. And I will have to say that I did see some stuff recently posted on that was great. But still, again, this should be being live streamed on Facebook. You need to meet people where they're at in their home. And a lot of times the click-through rate to go from Facebook onto another site, even if it is a Zoom and even if it is accessible, is going to be much less than something that's right there in front of their face. So again, for the third time, I will request that this be streamed on Facebook Live. You can also keep it, so you can have it on record. It's not anything that's going to be deleted. So with all due respect, Ms. McGraw, what you stated when you ran for the board is kind of going against what you're doing or lack thereof concerning the equity, diversity, and inclusion. Now, you weren't present at the vote for whatever reason. I'm not asking you to divulge that. That is your personal business. And the vote was on a contract renewal, and you've been silent about your stance on the program. As a newly elected member and as a member in general, we, the parents, deserve to know what are your views on this subject. Directly, I'd like to know, do you support this initiative? And heads up, I don't know enough about the program is not an acceptable answer. Finally, Tanya Davis, another member who voted no on the AGG, is also a member, ironically, of the Equity Task Force, as were the leaders of the AGG who actually spearheaded the event, the effort. Tanya, I'd like to know, and this is not saying that you don't have any, but I'd like to know what training do you have in diversity, equity, inclusion? This includes, for example, sensitivity training as far as the Black experience in education and LGBTQ individuals with developmental, also individuals with developmental and mental health disabilities. And I'll add that simply knowing those who are different does not count. And what makes you qualified to hold a position on the committee? What are your goals for this committee? If you're going to serve on this committee, I'd like to know what your stances are actually of equity, diversity, and inclusion, especially if you're voting no against the AGG. So these are the questions that I would ask. My email is on there. I would like a response if possible. And yeah, I wonder if there's any grant funding for the AGG, if you guys are worried about money.
Thank you, Sarita. And Jackie Nelson.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jacqueline Nelson, president of the Roma NAACP, and recently I've been appointed as the NAACP New York State Western Region Education Chair, which has me working with 10 other branches across our state, from Buffalo to Syracuse, all the way to through Utica, whatever. I didn't expect to hear what I heard from the previous speaker, so it might make more sense. I read the other day in the Rome Sentinel, and I didn't mean what you said would make more sense. What I'm going to say now will make more sense. I read the other day in the Rome Sentinel a comment that was made regarding me. This made me recall a comment the vice president made at the last board meeting. Both of these comments were in reference to a recent hire within the school district. Ms. Davis and Ms. Fontana stated that this should make me happy, and this is what I wanted. This is not about making me happy. This is about making children feel included, making them feel they belong and that they are valued. These comments were rude, unnecessary, and insensitive. One could call it a microaggression. You know, that little dig somebody gives when they think they're getting at someone, you're nodding your head, so I think you understand. Which tells all of us, some of you on this board could use some bias training, because I don't think you understand why making that comment was insensitive. Diversity is one of the best parts about America, and all children, and it's all children, benefit when they see it every day. The Rome City School Board needs to embrace diversity and not treat it like you're just checking a box. We would like to know what is being done in regards to AGG, and are there any decisions or plans in the making? Maybe an RFP, maybe there's progress with that. There is no doubt that Access Global Group was working with administrators, teachers, and staff to help them understand the needs of children who don't look like them. And it was going so well. Don't let the 18% down. Please be transparent and let us know what your plans are. Thank you.
Hey, Jackie. Okay. Next, our work study session with the building presentation of MRFA, Mr. LeBaron.
Evening. Yep. So folks, come on, I'll just introduce you. We have Brian LeBaron here, the RFA principal, just here to provide a brief update on all things happening at RFA. Just something new this year. We haven't done this yet in the past, in the mid-year. Over the course of the next 4 meetings, you'll see each of the principals come through, just providing with an update of some things that are happening in the buildings. I know that the board members have they each have a school that they work with, and they've been in schools, but some of you have day jobs and you're not able to get into the schools when the kids are there. So we want to do our best to kind of bring some information to you. So Brian, you have the floor is yours for as long as you need, preferably 15 minutes or less.
Speech communication major, so I can take all kinds of time. How many folks would like a copy? What I did was I typed some notes. I have 4 categories: student recognition, teacher recognition, culture and climate, and mental health and academic supports and behavioral programs.
If you got enough for everybody, I think it's.
I think that I do. I'll pass out as many as I can. I'll just give them folks, and you want to take one and pass it all the way down, and that way I can keep talking while I cut down some time. As they're being passed out, I know you're familiar with the seal of biliteracy and the seal of civic readiness. We're working on that piece of it. That's new. Some of the folks in fact we're in the room. We've been working together with our social studies teacher and Chris and Jackie, and it's kind of an interesting topic. I think the kids are interested. We've got some applications that are due tomorrow. We've got some already, so that should catch some life going into next year because we have a little bit more time to prepare. This year was a little bit short, so we're in pretty good shape. The seal by literacy, we're still working on that too. That's Nikai Pomponi leads that, and that's been excellent. So we keep moving forward, some new things for our district, and it's great for our kids. Plus, they have a diploma. We've created 7 new student awards. We've given out 140 since November. I'm pretty happy about that. This was generated to try to get some positive feeling back in the building, to try to build that culture and climate. It was geared towards having the adults in the building try to find and see more things that kids are doing well that you might not necessarily notice because of the way things have gone over the last year and a half, last couple of years. It's just there's been so much negative. It's been a lot on folks. It's been a lot on kids. It's been a lot on teachers, and it's been a lot on families. And being able to just find things that kids do great without them even knowing it. And then when we give the award, we do Monday award mornings, and when they come down, they get the award and they get a piece of paper on the back of it. They come to my conference room and we pass the awards out, and it has the teacher's name and why they received it. So it's not just here you go, you got this award, and they go, what did I get that for? We don't want that. We want to know why they got it. And we've talked a lot about this concept of paying it forward. I have some other gifts for you. It's like Christmas all over again. We started the school year with a concept for my leadership team, the ESPA team, that what we want to do was have every student in the building, 1,600 students, have a connection with an adult. And so we came up with an idea that we bought these bracelets. I wear mine every day, that it says on the bracelet, United, and hashtag, and it's got the I in the center, it's capitalized. And I brought one for everyone. Our job was to give these to teachers, 10 of them, and their job was to pass one out to a student who was not on their record, so that they would stand in the hallway. Hey, how you doing? I'm Mr. LeBaron. I'm the English teacher here. What's your name? If you ever need anything, you got somebody to connect with. Nice to see you. Hey, here's a bracelet. It was a random opportunity for us to get folks in the building, because we do have some kids who just don't have the social skills, graces to go out and speak with people, and we want to meet them halfway. So this was an opportunity. Yes, I'll give you 2. I'm not sure how many were in the bunch. I know Mr. Blake's a bracelet wearer. Okay. So we did that at the beginning of the year. That was a good start. If you see kids walk around the building, sometimes we say, hey, do you have a bracelet? And if they say no, we say, okay, well, if you don't have one, come on down, we'll get you one. This is why. So we're trying to really encourage our school in a manner of speaking of letting their guard down a little bit, having the ability to just walk up and talk to people, some training with our staff on how to walk up to kids and just have a conversation with them and not feel intimidated. Adults can feel intimidated by kids, believe it or not. And it's not always the easiest thing to do. So we've tried to break some of those walls down and try to get this to be a much more familiar climate culture. So the awards, we created a character award, the Principal Student of the Week Award, Assistant Principal, Saying to Greatness, Respect Award, Resolutions Expert Award. I like that one. that one I'll kind of connect some of these to make this go a little faster too. The Resolution Experts Award, if you, on this format you have, if you look over where it talks about the SROs, on the back towards the bottom, it says peer mediation and conflict resolution has been a huge success. This year, we've probably done 15 or 20 of them. So what's happening is that kids are saying, hey, this is going to happen. There's going to be a fight, or there's a problem with so-and-so. And we get them down to the conference room and we let them air it out. And by the time they're all done, they're shaking hands, and typically so far, and knock on wood, because you say, you know how it is, the principal say it's never going to happen, it'll happen tomorrow. It's been great because you get it out, they learn to mediate, the SRO gives them a conversation, and there's no problem. And it's been so effective. This year has been great. So that's been helpful. So when they do that, we give them the Resolution Experts Award. So if they know that they've been given something that shows that they've been able to do that, and that's a skill. And it's a very important skill, as you know, as they get older. We've got kids in our building, the Sincerity and Personality Award. It's just, we have kids that have an infectious smile. So in the definition of that award, it'll say an infectious smile. The kids are just happy. They're just great kids. And we want to make sure that they get recognized, that they're just a kid you want to be around all the time. And we all know who they are. And sometimes they go unnoticed. So we want to make sure that they get a word, they get something noticed as well, that they're just a great kid. 2020, we were recognized as one of the best high schools, top ranked schools. And I wrote the definition there. Have a high rate of students who scored above expectations, math, reading, state assessments, passed an array of college level exams, and graduated in 4 years. We have the banner. We have the banner that hangs in when you come into our lobby. We also have the plaque that hangs in our main foyer area too. And we still qualify for that award. So you can only hang so many banners, but we still qualify. And that's kind of a big deal. It's something that we hang our hat on as some recognition for our group, especially our school counselors, because that is a lot of hard work on their part to get kids into those programs. And our kids do a great job there. PBIS, more positive stuff. We met the other day, talked about some grade level activities for little grade level competitions, some things to get the building motivated in that area. We were the 2021 Vex Robotics Northern New York State Champion. That's great because we're talking more about STEAM and STEM activities moving forward. And that connects to the back when we talk about our, Chris and I have been working with Todd Kubica, and he generates the money. He's got some funding that goes with our Gear Up program. So if you look on the back, Bob, it talks about our Gear Up program. 2 adults share a room in the 2200 wing where students can visit during lunch or study hall, or actually help with homework, classwork, or have time with an adult in the building away from the everyday flow. But the core of the program is to get students interested in STEM technology. And Todd has supported us, and they're looking into this drone soccer. If you've seen that, it's pretty awesome. And that's coming, and they're buying the equipment to do so. And I just got, Chris, I just got an email from Todd today that is coming in here soon. Okay, so we're going to add that to the mix. The program is great. So the way our cafeteria, I'll skip around to the cafeteria piece where it says culture and climate. I want to thank everyone in the room and Peter, especially for giving us an opportunity to get teachers more involved in the building flow. By having them be and stationed all over our building has completely changed the dynamics of our school. It has been a godsend. There's somebody where we need to see them all the time. And it has simply changed our hallways completely. And I put some little data on here, because everybody knows I'm a data guy. We had 1,085 referrals up to early November. 74% of them were class cuts. So since we've instituted this piece, we've got teachers all over the building stationed in these areas. There's no more hallway out in front of the caf. You walk over. I encourage you to come over and see it. Kids are sitting down, eating lunch, having conversation. It's just runs so smooth. It's awesome. I love it. And at this point, that percentage was cut in half. So what a difference that made. So thank you. It's much appreciated. Like I said, I'll skip around a little bit. We were the 2021 Utica Rome Chin-Up Challenge champions. So again, pretty proud of that. We beat them again. Not to say there's not a rivalry there, but You know, I'm a little competitive about our building. Holiday concert this year, considering I thought was as good as I've ever seen it, which I thought is a real positive for our music staff. They did a great job and those kids were awesome. And I don't think the music folks expected it to be that good with all the time that they had been out and trying to do lessons virtually. So to be able to pull that off was really awesome. So that was great. So a little shout out to them. I added this in here because we haven't had a recent exam in a couple of years, but as of 2019, those 3 consecutive years, our ELA 11 recent exam among the 8 demographic comparable schools that I got from Wendy Ailes, Cortland, Binghamton, Johnson City, Central Valley, Watertown, Utica, where we ranked was number 1 with those schools against them, and 92 to 96% over that period of time. So that says a lot about our ELA program and why that that exam is probably our district SLO. So that's a lot. Teacher recognition, we give leadership awards a lot to our teachers. They kind of go above and beyond. Kind of rigor relevance awards. So if I'm observing a lesson and I think that, you know, Mr. Blake's done a great job, I bring them down my post conference, and if they kind of meet all the indicators and they go a little above that and they meet some of the highly effective areas and it's great, then we give them a little recognition and say you meet the rigor relevance award, and they really do appreciate that. And it's pretty tough to get because you really got to have one of those lessons that's knock it out of the park. We're going to create a new one for teachers just because I think that we've got some staff right now that are volunteering to be around the building. They've done a great job. They've shown great leadership. Their attendance is awesome. Their lesson plans are solid. They're well organized and prepared, and they'll do anything we ask them. And those people need some recognition as well. So we're going to create that, and that's going to probably be instituted next week. And on the back, I think I've covered most of those points. There's one thing on here that I would like to make sure that I do not miss, and that is Dan Murphy has been a great fit. He's transitioned well. We're lucky to have him. The basketball games. I've been building principal at RFA. This is my 6th year. And when you go to the basketball game, compared to what we were looking at here in the last few years before COVID, you go into the gym and the kids are sitting down. There's none of the cheering, or the negativity and the comments that, you know, yelling out to the other team. It's been awesome. So a couple of times we had a little thing, we fix it and we move on from there. But it's just when you go in the gym, it's a basketball game. You can go in, you can sit, and you can watch the kids play, and that's pretty awesome. So I'm very, as you can tell tonight, I'm feeling really good about what's going on at RFA. I like what's happening. There's a lot going on. We've also added this new wall mural thing that I've talked with our art teachers. We have a lot of blank space at RFA, especially down our stairwells. We just painted the new one. It's outside our cafeteria. If you've seen it, it's pretty awesome. It looks nice. We're going to add more. So what we've done is ask the art teachers to talk to kids about quotes. And as we come down our stairwells, we're going to start painting things like, what is character? What does that mean to you? Kind of pose some questions out there that kids think about every day. And some other things so that when you come down, you don't just see blank space, but there's something for kids to think about every day as they go through those areas. We think that'll be helpful. So obviously you can tell that we're really trying to build that culture and climate of paying it forward. That when somebody does something, and they do it because that's the right thing to do, it's not because they're earning something in return. That's kind of the game plan. So if there's anything on here you have any questions about, I hope I'm pretty close to 15 minutes, I'm guessing. I try to go quickly, but not too fast. Is there anything I can clarify or anything on there?
Questions from Mr. LeBaron?
I guess, Mr. LeBaron, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you about basketball games. I think they're too quiet, and I'm not seeing the spirit and the camaraderie and the student support that we used to see, and I miss that. And I think a lot of that is attributed to COVID. But I miss seeing those kids who got super excited in support of their teammates. So I know from a behavior issue, it's positive for you, but you know, I remember games where the stands would be just full and there'd be a lot of cheering, and it's been a little unusual. And I know it's probably weird too in the games where, you know, it's been great that Mr. Blake supported us in having
fans here this year, because I think that makes such a difference to the kids. It's definitely hard to watch the videos of the games where they don't have anybody supporting them. So it's important. But you talked a lot about behavior, but I guess I'm looking for a little more academically. What are we doing about barriers to attendance for our kids? What's happening at RFA in terms of increasing our graduation rates? Can you tell us a little about how those things are going for you?
That's a huge topic. So, there is a lot going on there. There are attendance issues are going to be an issue that we know that's chronic across the state right now. A lot of our folks that we just hiring, Sarah Fox, bringing her back, the Chubbas person, like Donna Room is there all the time. We've added another social worker. A lot of the mental health things that we're dealing with have been helpful to have those people aboard. So we're seeing some change. Our counselors are working day and night to try to reach out to families and get them to school. A lot of what you see on paper here, I'm addressing just attendance right now, but a lot of what you're seeing on paper is about trying to get kids engaged and bring them back to school if they're being out a year and a half. Getting them engaged and bringing them motivated to be there and want to be there helps promote that educational integrity. So we get that point, then it becomes where our teachers are figuring out right now. I meet with departments every month. We've talked a lot about the curriculum train is what I like to call it. I'm not looking right at Tanya. I'm sorry when I'm answering this question. The curriculum train to me is when the stress and the pressure on a Regents teacher is to get to the holy grail of getting to that Regents exam and making sure that the kids are well prepared for all that information. That's a lot of stress. So even in a normal year, even in historically, that's a lot of stress. What we try to make sure of is that the teachers don't feel that pressure to have to cover their curriculum, so that when kids get behind or kids are struggling with the academic piece, that there's other outlets or there's ways to engage those kids differently. We've talked a lot in the past. I've got notebooks full of stuff about critical thinking and literacy across the content areas. And Chris, when I've worked a lot on those areas, we just haven't really gotten back to some of those real basics pieces that we've had as a mantra of our building, the heart and soul of why we've had some real increased success academically. But the bottom line is that the more we can get kids in the building, the more motivated they become, the more engaged they are. And teachers figuring out that when we talk with them, especially math here recently and science, we just talked with them yesterday about the fact that if I've got students who are coming into my classroom who have maybe not necessarily all the basic skills, that how can I teach them the entire curriculum and have that all in at the same time before they get to the end of the year and have them be successful? If we're going to try to teach the 85 mastery, I think we're going to fail. I think if we're trying to get kids to have the basic skills and understanding right now and get them to a passing and doing some smaller assessments, like I talk with teachers about strategies like smaller assessments. So when kids walk into the classroom and they get a 1-question quiz, and that's a routine, something they know and they can answer that's aligned to your curriculum and the basic knowledge and skills and aptitude, you're more likely to get that student to feel more confident and more successful under the current conditions, and then they move forward. That's more motivating, that's more engaging, and now you're still touching on the basic concepts so they can keep moving through the curriculum. What we're seeing is that the kids' lack of knowledge or the lack of basic skills from being out for so long is having an impact on the ability to teach the whole curriculum all at the same time as normal. So we're working on it, Tanya, as much as we can, but that's where the separation comes for. If I've got all of this to get in, how do I get all that in and not feel like when it comes June that I didn't have my kids properly prepared for the Regents exam? Yet right over here on this side of it, they don't have all the necessary skills in the last year to be prepared to have all that curriculum all at one time. So there's a gap in there. So we're trying to close that gap and help our staff feel comfortable if they have to kind of tweak their curriculum, move some things out of it and shift it around a little bit. They don't feel like at the end of the year, I want to get hung out because I didn't have everything in. So it's a little tricky. And that's, how those teachers are feeling. I mean, if you're a high school principal in the room, you know how they feel. They feel like I got to get all that in. To me, I think right now, that's our biggest hurdle, that our kids, our teachers feel like I've still got to get out like a normal year, and it's not a normal year. And that's a very difficult adjustment, but they've been very receptive to that feedback. I've got a couple examples of teachers, co-teachers that did a great job. What they've done is they've created some smaller incentives and assessments in there, like we talked about, and they're seeing real success with that. So what I do is I use that in my other meetings and say, hey, so-and-so is doing this, you might want to take a look. All our 3 APs have almost covered all of their official observations already. And we're talking, giving them feedback that teachers moving forward to. So there's a lot, like I said, it's a huge conversation because there's more to it than that. I mean, the literacy piece, we've got 10 sections of literacy in our building, which is awesome for high school because it's not mandated past 7th grade. So the fact that we even have that is a bonus, and those kids get progress monitored. They're in they're in 3 separate categories: fluency, decoding, and comprehension, and making sure that their literacy needs are being met. That's a big piece because if they can't read, they don't understand the context, how are they going to answer the question? So we've got a lot going on at the same time. And there's some other things. Anytime I'd be happy to sit and chat even more.
I want to say just personally, Mr. LeBaron took the time to reach out to me last week when he was concerned about my child. And I appreciate that as a parent, but I hope that that's something that we're emulating anytime we're seeing a child that isn't themselves. You know, I know that you happen to see my son because he does morning announcements, but I know that I need people to know that you're that kind of principal. So I just want to tell you that I appreciate it. And I know that you are doing a lot on relationship building and, you know, making yourself visible, and the APs as well. And, you know, the counselors and social workers. Mr. Nash's wife has had the trifecta of Davis's, and as a guidance counselor is also amazing. You know,
That's
there's
what's wrong with her, huh?
yes. You know, just, I don't think people realize, and I think that's the hardest part when your child goes to high school, is trying to stay connected as a parent. And so I applaud you for doing that. And I hope that that's what you're emulating and encouraging, because every kid needs that one person. Every kid needs someone that's keeping an eye on them. So I hope that that continues. And I know my child's not the only child that you're doing that with. And I hope you don't mind that I shared that. But I think it's important that people know that it's worrisome to think that your student is there among, you know, 1,500 and can get lost in that. But, you know, this is some good information. And I know I did come in the day that you had started the awards and you were really proud of those. So thank you for always welcoming us. And thank you for, you know, trying to still create personal relationships in a time when, as you said, nothing is normal. So
Appreciate that. Thank you. I'd like to end with whatever the policy procedure is through Peter or the board, anybody's welcome if that's whatever the will of the board and the superintendent is. There's different districts have different rules about board members coming to buildings, but we're an open book. And I want that to be spoken. We're an open book. We lay it right out there. There's no smoke and mirrors at RFA. We love what we do. We're compassionate about what we do. Do we make mistakes? Yeah, we're going to make mistakes. But I think at the end of the day, the heart of our staff and our people is in the right place. And they're always looking to try to find ways to make sure the kids get what they need. And that's the high school diploma, get across stage and have a great time and a safe time in doing so. Yeah, it's a long haul. I think this year was about reestablishing trust with our families and our kids, which was the primary goal. In order to get the academic piece there, we had to create an atmosphere of trust and reestablishing that with our kids and our families. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of that. So kudos to my staff. They're working very hard. Thank you for having me tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
we'll see you Friday for Rhapsody. We hope.
Okay, now we're on to our consent agenda, which is pages 2 to 4. Resolution to accept consent agenda. That upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the consent agenda be accepted by the Board of Education. I move the resolution. Second by Ms. McGurl. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Starting on page 5, regular meeting agenda. Finance, action item number 1. Resolution to transfer monies to capital reserve plan. Whereas on December 18th, 2019, Rome City School District, voters passed a proposition to establish a capital reserve fund pursuant to section 3651 of the education law, known as the 2019 Capital Reserve Fund. And whereas education law section 3653 requires that no monies may be paid or transferred into any reserve fund established by a school district unless expressly authorized by a resolution of its Board of Education. And whereas it has been determined by the Board of Education of the school district that up to $5 million held in budgetary appropriation are surplus funds, and that it is in the school district's best interest to transfer monies to the school district's 2019 capital reserve fund. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the school district does hereby approve the transfer of up to $5 million from budgetary appropriation or such revenues as are not required by law to be paid into any other fund or account to the 2019 capital reserve fund, created in accordance with the section 3651 of the education law. This resolution shall take effect immediately. I move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Mr. Malachi. Any discussion?
What's the current balance? in the capital?
Zero.
Zero.
We have $1 million that was appropriated in last year's budget. And we have $4 million that was freed up with the first round of ARP funding CURSA back in the spring. We used our CURSA money for district operations that were allowable under that, which freed up $4 million in general fund monies to be put in this reserve.
No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Resolution number 2, resolution to accept the comptroller's audit corrective action plan. Resolved that upon review of the district audit committee and the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the board approves the corrective action plan in response to the comptroller's audit number 2021M-144. I move the resolution. Second by Mr. Hagerty. Any discussion? Yeah, we just, our audit committee and finance both looked at this and we were okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Action item number 3. Resolution to accept change orders for 2019 capital improvement project. Whereas the Board of Education of the Rome City School District previously authorized its 2019 capital improvement project, and whereas during the course of the project, certain changes to the work covered by various contracts have been determined by Labella Associates, DPC, the project architect, to be required. And whereas the project architect and the involved contractors will prepare, sign, and submit proposed change orders for the following work: CE-033 pool painting for $29,800. And whereas the Board of Education has determined that it is in best interest of the school district to approve the proposed changes and accept the proposed change orders. Now therefore be resolved as follows. 1, the Board of Education approves the changes set out in this resolution. 2, the Board of Education hereby authorizes the president of the board to sign the change orders on behalf of the Board of Education, take all actions necessary or convenient to proceed under the contract as amended by the change orders in connection with the project. 3, the Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent of schools to sign the New York State Education Department required certification in connection with each change order, take all actions necessary or convenient to satisfy applicable change order certification and filing requirements. 4, upon Board of Education approval, this resolution shall take effect immediately. I move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Ms. McGurl. Any discussion?
Just quickly, this is something that came up last minute over the weekend. We did discuss it quickly at finance. If you're familiar with the pool, there are Tecum panels that are meant for soundproofing way up high near the roof. Those have faded over the years. Rather than take them all off and replace them all, which is extremely expensive, the plan was to paint them. We had a price in for painting, and when they went to go do it, they realized that they needed a special type of paint that would stay adhered to that surface and rejuvenate it and actually last. That was not known that these panels would need that paint at that time. So the need is to move forward with the change order is to get the proper paint to get that done. The reason it's moving fast is because, as you may know, we have the scaffolding city up there right now. So right now there's a floor that actually sits about 10 feet from the ceiling, the roof line, the pool. It's costing us about $2,500 a week to have that scaffolding up. If we would have waited on this, we would have just been wasting money, increasing the cost. It's one of those things that if we don't do it, you're going to have a brand new, nicely painted pool with these faded, these giant faded squares all over the room. Money is clearly in the budget, as we talked about in the past. So we figured it'd be best to ask the board to move forward quickly on it. I apologize that it kind of came on quickly, but it was something that was discovered last weekend. didn't want to wait 2 weeks and spend $5,000 for scaffolding rental and really delay the pool opening another 2 weeks.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, so Tuesday, the audit committee and the finance committee met. The audit committee, we've got a presentation on our internal audit risk assessment report. The draft report, it was pretty good. We will need at some point to decide which area we want them to focus on next. We've got a couple ideas, but we probably want to discuss it at some point, not tonight though. And we talked, the next three items were on the agenda, I think, the corrective action plan. No, and the upcoming, only one was on there. And we talked about, we're still working on getting a charter for our audit committee. We've never had one, so we're working on it. So we've got a draft and now we're gonna start massaging it. So there's no huge rush because we've never had one, so, but we will have that hopefully within the next month, I'm hoping. And we are also, we're given a couple RFPs for our external and internal audits, where we talked about them. I don't know if we decided to do them or not. Have we decided to do
We
them?
do that in the springtime.
Springtime, okay. That was the audit committee. The finance committee, we talked about, he always gives us an update on the health consortium, and what's going on with that. We talked about the capital reserve funding. And then we saw a rough draft of the DEI draft RFP. So that's in the works. We saw a draft RFP on getting a furniture consultant for the furniture that we've got for the elementaries.
Can you clarify that one though? Because that was probably the most enlightening discussion. It was a long 2 hours, but I don't know. So the RFP isn't for the furniture itself. So it's not like we want you to come bid on like chair by chair.
Right.
It's a person who would come in and assess our needs. And if I understood it correctly, then that person would either look at state contract or what are available sources for each grouping. So let's say it was bookcases and library furniture, and they look for the best pricing on that. Or if it was kindergarten tables and chairs, they would look for that. So the RFP is for the service to assess the need and get the quotes, not an RFP for the items, which I think is what I was confused about before sitting in this
Exactly,
meeting.
yeah, ditto.
Yeah.
So,
The RFP is for an individual or a company to do the assessment on the district of what's needed and then do the work to go procure that furniture.
So that we have standard furniture throughout all the elementaries.
As
And-
close as
and-
we
As
can,
close
right?
as we
So
can,
so
yeah.
the conversation being, we want, and the conversation in August was that we want teachers to have the ability to have input and use furniture that works for them.
Right.
The problem is you can't go to teacher A and say, what kind of furniture you want? And then order for that teacher, knowing that maybe in 2 years they're not going to be there. And now you got a classroom set of furniture that, so it's more or less going to the buildings, getting a general feel for what people want and getting consistent furniture throughout. Usually what you're going to wind up seeing is you're going to see a classroom that might have, 18 regular desks, some soft seating, some stand-up desks, some foot swing desks, options for a kid when they walk in the room, sit in different things, furniture that's mobile. But also provide that opportunity if you do have a teacher that wants something that's really different, to give them a chance to say, hey, I want to try something really different. And then the person or the company would do the work of, what do you need in totality? Then they would go find it at the best price and procure it for the district.
right. And I think it's important for us, all 9 of us, to know when it's time to make that decision, because, and I think it's important for the public to know, because we are in this time and space where we deliver instruction differently, and not everyone sits, in the rows that we were used to, right, when we all went to school. Stroud is probably the best example, if anyone's seen a Stroud classroom, of how, you can make those desks into groups of tables, you can make them into a U shape, you can sit them in a circle. And I think we're doing the same thing with Stroud as we did with RFA, right? The RFA furniture seems to be like the first time we really did that, but that building's gonna be 20 years old, but that's on a replacement cycle, right?
Yeah, they use their whatever extra budgetary funds they have for equipment at the end of the year. They purchase new desks and
I mean,
chairs.
because overall, you're in good shape where that stands, right, Brian? Like, I feel like I don't ever go in your school and be like, oh, they're sitting in the same desk I sat in not that long ago.
Okay, and for discussion.
But thank you though, Peter, that was helpful during
Oh,
that
no,
meeting.
We were just talking, okay. And then we talked about Dave and his department's developing a multi-year financial plan, which is something the state comptroller wanted. So that's coming along. Talked about the budget transfers that we approved with the consent agenda. And then talked about treasurer's report. So that was about it. And I will now, our next committee meeting is Tuesday, February 8th at 10 a.m. Use the audits at first, and then we follow with finance right after. Facilities, Mr. Haggerty.
Facilities was scheduled to meet this past Monday, and it was a snow day, so we postponed that meeting. It's now rescheduled for, it's a meeting of the whole. Rescheduled for 18 January at 6 p.m. And the subject of that is the architect and construction managers can be coming in and talking to us about the next capital improvement project. And their thoughts and ideas on that.
Okay, so the next committee meeting is January 18th at 6 p.m. Committee of the Whole.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Haggerty.
You're welcome.
Educational programs, Dr. Fontana, looks like you're off the hook unless you want to say anything.
Well, we just have to pick our next meeting because we had to cancel. So
Okay,
we have a committee on the whole, the 18th. Maybe we could do ed programs 5 to 6 that Tuesday, the 18th.
I work that day.
Okay.
That's why we went with a few of us.
I can't do it.
yeah.
Yeah, Craig
That-
can't
that's not
either.
a good
That's
day.
how we went with 6 that night.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Only, we don't have any other time next week or anything.
Sounds like Saturday is.
No, Saturday, guys. No.
Saturday morning works.
Right, because the 19th is the budget and the professional development, right? So that was already a long one.
We have the 25th.
Do you want to do it?
Can you do it? I mean, it's not a long one, that's one, right?
The
No,
24th?
because.
Professional.
Oh, yeah.
Same time. Karen, can we do it right after policy on Thursday?
Which Thursday? When's
Thursday,
policy?
the 20th, we have policy at 4:30.
Oh, yeah, that would work.
Or what time do you work?
I work Tuesday
Until 1?
until 6, but Thursday I work till 4.
No, Thursday. Okay.
Did you want to do earlier?
Could we do 3:30 and then,
I'm presenting at the HCB conference.
Okay.
I can't do
Just
3:30
kidding.
that day. No, that's okay.
You can't do later.
no, I can do later. I'm just
You're
trying
I know.
to.
I
It's
know.
okay.
Karen, are you okay with that then? 5:30 on the 20th? Policy should be short because unfortunately I haven't gotten anything new. Our NISPA person has been out too, so
Okay.
policy won't be as long as anticipated.
So 5:30, let's do it.
Does that work, Chris?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
5:30.
I'll have to check with the.
120.
If there's a problem, let us know.
Okay, yeah.
I don't remember what
I
it
know
was.
Dana wants. some information.
Or if you need to flip them, we could do ed programs at 4:30 and policy at 5:30. Wait, can you do that? Ellen?
Say that again. What day?
Thursday at 5:30.
Is 4:30 better for ed programs? I guess I'm asking. Policy's already at 4:30, but if you want to flip them,
You can't do that day.
you can't do that day at all, correct?
Wait.
The 20th.
No, I can't.
So what's better for you, 4:30 or 5:30, or it
Either way.
doesn't really matter?
So what are you flipping policy?
That's what I.
Well, he wants to make sure Jen and Dana can be
Yeah.
here, and that's why the question came up.
we
with
got
that.
goal setting that night? No, that's. Goal
That's
setting at
Wednesday,
5:30.
Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
Wednesday, the 19th is the professional development with NISPA and the budget retreat.
So there's no.
We're
goal
putting
setting
pots in
on
the back,
Thursday?
Craig,
I
and
think
like.
that's what it
That's
is.
on Wednesday. That's
So what's the
19th.
20th now? Just policy?
20th is policy at 4:30.
right.
Yeah,
Goal
I
setting.
have-
20th is
I have
policy
goal
at
setting.
4:30.
That's what I have, but I
And we were
think-
just gonna add programs at 5:30.
But I
when we
think
went to
it's
pencil it
the
in.
same.
Same thing.
Chris said
I
he
think,
wants to make sure Dana and Jen can be here.
Or I think we're doing.
So
a little
we'll
something
let
like
you
that.
know. We'll let you know.
Yeah, either way.
Well, so either one.
Okay.
That gives you flexibility.
Yes.
Anything else, Dr. Fontana?
Thanks everyone for the flexibility.
Okay, thank you. People operations, Mr. Malachi.
Action item 1, resolution to appoint instructional personnel long-term substitute. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints the following instructional personnel long-term substitute. Lisa DiMaggio, Bellamy Gans, special education teachers, BS 90.4 plus, 75 plus MS salary, 62,254 prorated, effective date 1/17/2022 through June 30, 2022. I move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Ms. Reddick, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 2, resolution to appoint instructional personnel probationary. Resolved that upon the recommendation of superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints the following instructional personnel probationary as listed in the agenda at action item 2, page 7. I move the resolution.
Second.
Ms. Reddick, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 3, resolution to appoint non-instructional personnel probationary. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints the following non-instructional personnel probationary as listed at action item 3, page 7 of the agenda. I move the resolution.
Second.
Ms. Reddick, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 4, resolution to transfer staff. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the following staff transfer. Tamara Aylesworth, food service helper, 3.75 hours per day from John Joy to Bellamy, effective date January 14, 2022. I move the resolution.
Second.
Ms. Reddick, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 5, resolution to appoint interim administrative personnel. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints the following interim administrative personnel. Kristen Chechia, interim director of supported learning, effective date 1/3/2022. I move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Ms. McGurl, any discussion?
We're still working with the RAA on a salary for the position. We'll have that for you as soon as possible.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 6, resolution to appoint tutor for the after-school program for the 2021-2022 school year. That resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints the following tutor for the after-school program for the 2021-2022 school year. Dave Roberts at RFA at $26 per hour, effective date 1/24/2020. Is that should that be 22? Through June 30, 2022. I move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Ms. Reddick, any discussion?
Do we have any data yet on how many kids are taking advantage of this program?
Yep, it's, if you read my ongoing.
I can never get in the drive when I'm not on my.
Happy to
Chromebook.
help you.
Okay.
It's updated all the way up to date.
No, I can. I just, when I'm on my work computer, I can't get to cloud-based stuff, so I
Yeah.
can't get in the drive. I'll
Yeah,
have
it's,
to make a point.
the
to-
link's right in there so that you can see it ongoing. That's up to
Awesome.
date. It's up to date.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Action item 7, resolution to increase hours. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby increases the following employee hours. Eleanor Cook, food service helper, 5.5 hours from 5.5 hours per day to 6 hours per day. Effective date January 14, 2022. I move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Ms. McGurl, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Okay, we had a meeting this past week. It focused primarily on the district clerk position, what we want it to look like, how we want to staff certain obligations, whether we want to shift certain obligations from people that are already doing them now to other staff members or to district clerks. So it was a long, but I think productive discussion. And I think Mr. Morton has a sense of what a job description should look like moving forward. So I think he's going to be putting that together and presenting it at our next meeting. Other than that, he continues his search for both instructional and non-instructional personnel in a variety of areas. Committee meeting is Tuesday, January 25th, 4:30 PM. And while it's not a committee of the whole, it seems like that it is. And anyone obviously.
Becoming a popular committee.
Yes, it
What a
is.
chairman.
Yeah. Maybe that's why it's so popular. Other than that, that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Malachi. Policy, Ms. Davis.
Action item 1, resolution to accept the second reading and adoption of policy number 1400, public complaints. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the second reading and adoption of policy 1400, public complaints, be accepted by the Board of Education. I move the resolution.
Second by Mr. Hagerty. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Item 2, resolution to accept the second reading and adoption of exhibit 1400E, public complaints. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the second reading and adoption of exhibit 1400E, public complaints, be accepted by the Board of Education. I move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Ms. Reddick. Any discussion?
I just want to clarify that we're accepting these because these are transitioning into the new policy format. In the future, we don't need board action to update, add, or modify exhibits. Exhibits are things like forms that might need to be changed. But as part of the transition, they recommended that we adopt each item because we're going to the new numbering system and the new titles and to be consistent.
I
So,
was gonna ask, is this the new numbering system here? The
Yes.
number here?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So this should be ease of doing business for, if legal changes and you need to change language on a form, it doesn't have to go through first reading, second reading adoption in the future.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Item 3, resolution to accept the second reading and adoption of policy 1741, homeschooled students. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the second reading and adoption of policy number 1741, homeschooled students, be accepted by the Board of Education. I move the resolution.
Second.
Second by Ms. McGurl. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Our next committee meeting is on the 20th at 4:30. Outstanding items are, we are still trying to see where we are on board docs. Any updates on your end, Peter?
They've been starting to try and schedule trainings with Patty and myself,
Okay,
and then subsequently the full board.
perfect. And once that is up and running, it will be really helpful for us because it will not only house all of the district's policies and make them much more easily searchable by a particular word or phrase or topic, but all of our agendas and minutes for all of our meetings, including our committees, will be able to be housed there, and it'll just be much user-friendly for us and the public and much more readily updated. So we've really been grinding away at trying to get that up and running. Other than that, we are still waiting on our next two sections, sections 2000 and 3000. So we continue our progression on moving into the NISPA system and consolidating our manual. So probably sometime in March, we'll probably have an agenda item that will abolish some of the policies that we've added through these 1000s and replaced. Other than that, moving right along, next committee meeting will either be 4:30 or 5:30 once Mr. Brewer gets back to us.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Miscellaneous business. 1, resolution to approve sale of district property. Whereas the Rome City School District is the owner of real property, is the owner of real property located at 110, 112 West Linden Street in the city of Rome, county of Oneida, state of New York, identified as tax map number 223.020-6-22. And whereas the voters of the district on May 19, 2020, authorized the sale of the property at the price of $525,000 in accordance with education law, section 2511I and section 2512, subparagraph 5. And whereas board has considered an agreement of purchase and sale proposed by Bowers Development LLC and seeks to approve the same. Resolved by the Board of Education of the Rome City School District as follows. 1, the board approves the agreement of purchase and sale proposed by Bowers Development to purchase property at the price of $525,000 upon the terms and conditions set forth in the purchase contract. 2, the superintendent or his designee are authorized and directed to take all steps necessary or appropriate to complete the transaction contemplated herein. 3, this resolution shall take effect immediately. I move the resolution. Second by Ms. Proboli. Any discussion?
Did we, just refresh my recollection, could we deal with the prior offer? Is that officially?
Oh, do we have to take any
Yeah.
action to?
It just expired, right?
They didn't meet the-
Yeah,
they didn't meet the deadline.
Yeah, so it expired.
Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear, so before we enter into another contract, I will make sure the whole other contract. the previous
Yeah, I
contract
didn't-
is taken care of.
We don't have to
I don't think so.
take any action. Okay. Didn't think about that.
Any further discussion? I think the community, when they see the project, will be very happy with it. Any further discussion?
Just that, we did have an opportunity to meet with them, and
Yeah,
they are anxious to.
we did meet with them
roll
and-
this out to the community as
Yeah.
well, and meet with any people that might be concerned about the project.
Yes.
They're very open.
Yeah.
There will be
As soon as
community
it's as able to be shared,
Right.
the district wants to make sure the community is aware
We
and
will keep the
comfortable of
community
what's
up to
coming.
date, that's correct. And we will be happy, I believe, with it.
I agree.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. And we do not have an executive session because we covered everything in our earlier session. So I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And Minister Malachi, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
7:24 PM.
Yeah, I know, we better write this down, put this in the calendar.
Well, this puts our cumulative hours up to like 15 each this week, so
Yeah, this is good. This is a good way to.
I think that maybe.
I miss that. Oh.
You're on the spot, let's start making a folder for you. On your last night ever, I'm just gonna give you a big. You're gonna need more than a folder, you're gonna need like a truck. At least they handed it to me this time and didn't make me pick it up after you.
Is this off?
What?
Trying to gossip.